Hi, you caught me reading again. So, this Wednesday, we are concluding the second book, which I'm excited because I love the third book, so I cannot wait to move on. I have a few things this week to talk about in the last 3 chapters. 5 things, actually. So we're going to try and go through them fairly quickly. First things first. Teenage Voldemort. Gotta love 16-year-old Voldemort. He is so typically 16. He's super arrogant. He thinks he's awesome. But as what many people would say, he has no street cred yet. Alright? Right now, he's a brown-nosing, stuck-up, prissy prat, basically. He sucks up to the teachers, he charms everybody, he thinks he's awesome, he thinks he's really good looking, he thinks he's like awesome, and he's not. Like, he hasn't done anything. Okay, he killed Moaning Myrtle, but like, save for that, and even he didn't actually like kill her himself. He let a snake do it. He pretty much said, do it, and the snake did it. Like, that's not impressive. I'm sorry. I'm not impressed by the heir of Slytherin. And if you listen to his dialogue, like how he talks, really, Voldemort, you are really annoying. I don't care how good looking you may have been. I would have found you extremely annoying, and I would have made faces behind your back if I was 16 when you were. Not impressed. And I can understand why Dumbledore was like, I knew him as a kid. But because as a kid, even Dumbledore was like, he was kind of off, but, you know, he was just an annoying teenager. Number 2, roosters. Really? A rooster? That's all it took for that gigantic, humongous snake to go, oh, a rooster. Really? Nobody thought to transfigure something into a rooster? Really? I would have fixed my voice with my wand and been like, oh, make me into a rooster. Or I would have like completely lost my mind when I saw the snake coming at me. It would have been like, caca, caca, which isn't even a rooster, but I would have been shouting it like a crazy person trying to make some kind of noise in order to scare this thing. I've noticed too that birds in general seem to freak out a lot of animals. I don't know why. I'm a very big person and I'm actually pretty terrified of birds. So I don't know what that means, but birds are kind of scary, especially roosters. Again, we're cocky people. Third, I like how Dumbledore and Harry have a conversation about, you know, how he's kind of like Harry, They have a conversation, Dumbledore and Harry, about how Harry and Voldemort are similar. And we don't get to find out just how similar they are until much later, but that whole scene, if you didn't read it once, you should read it twice. Just keep all that good information in mind. Because Harry is just like so upset, because he's like, I don't want to be anything like the Dark Lord. And Dumbledore gives one of his great quotes. Like, there's tons of things you can quote Dumbledore on. When we get to it, I will tell you the quote that I put on my high school graduation invitations. That was Dumbledore. Because I think Dumbledore says really amazing things. And what he tells Harry is choices. It all comes down to choices on who we're going to be. And I think that's awesome. Because it's true. It doesn't matter who you are, what your predisposition to be, you gotta make choices, and if you make good choices, you tend to turn out good, and if you make bad choices, you tend to turn out bad. So I really like the idea that choices really I really like that choices make us who we are, and kudos to Dumbledore for knowing that and telling Harry, especially at 12, to being like, don't worry, you've got lots of choices to make in your life, you'll turn out exactly the way you want to. Fourth thing, Dobby. And not just Dobby, Ginny too. I don't like them. I don't like their characters. I find them pestering. I find them obnoxious. I can't relate to them. And I know they're well-meaning. I know they're not bad characters. I just don't like them. Like, they would have made me crazy. And they would have annoyed me. And, I mean, I would have never been mean. I would have always been nice. And I would have been like, okay. Just like you do with Colin. You're like, all right, Colin. Oh, God. You know, like, please stop bothering me. Like, my patience is, like, this big. And you've now made it this big. And I might not make it. So, to They're just characters that drive me nuts. However, I do care and love them later in the series. And when those moments happen where I'm sold and I now love Dobby and I now love Ginny, I'll tell you when we get to those moments too. But currently in the story plot, no. Dobby, Ginny, not my favorite characters in any way whatsoever. So the last chapter, the last few pages is always my favorite because whenever you've been really depressed and sad and, you know, been through really rough times, like, when it gets good, like, when you accomplish, when you're victorious, you should celebrate. And in the books, they always celebrate really big. They always make a big deal about it, and I think the movies really lacked that. Like, I just did not feel that same kind of hugging, kissing, yay, it's over with, let's eat, and let's drink, and have a great time. And by drink, I mean pumpkin juice, so don't misconstrue. So I'm going to read you the paragraph and they talk about the feast because I think this is awesome. It's one of my favorite parts in the entire book because this is kind of a dark book and it was just like, yes, for feasting. It says, Harry had been to several Hogwarts feasts, but never one quite like this. So clearly already it's epic. Everybody was in their pajamas and the celebration lasted all night. Awesome. They came in exactly what they were wearing and it lasted all night long. Have you heard any of the popular songs right now? Yeah, they talk about partying all night long. 5 a.m. That's when parties should end. Good times. Harry didn't know whether the best bit was Hermione running toward him screaming, "You solved it! You solved it!" Oh, tear. Or Justin hurrying over from the Hufflepuff table to wring his hand and apologize endlessly for suspecting him. Good show. Or Hagrid turning up at 3:30, cuffing Harry and Ron so hard on the shoulders that they were knocked into their plates of trifle. First of all, Hagrid, back from Azkaban. And then it, immediately, JK does this a lot, where you're like, very sad, oh, funny moment. He literally knocks the boys into their pudding. That's awesome. Pudding. That's how my brother says. Or his and Ron's 400 points for Gryffindor securing the House Cup for the second year running. Or Professor McGonagall standing up to tell them all the exams had been canceled as a school treat. Yeah! And of course Hermione, oh no, said Hermione. Because she studied. I'd be mad if I studied and there were no exams. But that's awesome too. They canceled all the exams, so it's like, whatever you learn this year, there's no test. It's okay, whatever. I mean, maybe you weren't paying attention. I'm sure Ron is thrilled right now because he's like, yes, I didn't do anything and I'm making it through. It's a good day for slackers. Or Dumbledore announcing that, unfortunately, Professor Lockhart would be unable to return next year, owing to the fact that he needed to go away and get his memory back. I never even talked about Gilderoy because not important enough. Quite a few of the teachers joined in the cheering that greeted this news, because even the teachers are like, crazy. But that's awesome. It's not just a feast where there was all this eating and they stayed up all night long, but all these things happened, and I just think that would have been an awesome part at the end of the movies, the slow-mo moments where they're just like, yay. Goodbye, Lockhart. Just all the happiness. So, teenagers, not intimidating. Roosters, you always need one around, clearly. And it's, what I think is funny too about roosters, did you ever live in the neighborhood where, for some reason, someone owned a rooster? And, at some point in your childhood, in the suburban neighborhood, there always, was a rooster that cock-a-doodle-dooed in the morning? I don't know about that if you had that experience, but I've met several people in my lifetime that's like, oh yeah, there was that weird guy who owned a rooster for a while. I bet you he knew about basilisks. I'm sure that's why he owned a rooster. Mystery solved. Which is awesome. Third one, choices. Make us who we are. So make good choices. That's why we tell you in school all the time, make good choices. And then number 4, Dobby and Ginny. Takes a while to redeem them, but it's coming. And then 5th, celebration party time. So I hope you enjoyed seeing me again Wednesday. I will see you next week after we read the first 3 chapters of The Prisoner of Azkaban, my first all-time favorite book. So I hope you enjoyed your Wednesday installment with me, and I will see you next week when we talk about The Prisoner of Azkaban in the first 3 chapters, which is super exciting.